This is a great time to catch up with a good friend Trent Dilfer because the draft is behind us a little bit. But this is why I'm bugging him, and I haven't bugged him off the air about this, which I'm a little surprised. What's going on with your boy Aaron Rodgers?
I've had a hard one on this. I get his frustration. So I don't want to take a side here because I literally can put myself in his shoes, not his shoes that I was as good or ever had these dynamics, but as a professional athlete, a guy that has a ton of pelts on the wall, a guy that is this close. I mean, they're this close to making a Super Bowl run. And in his mind, he's like, just give me some more stuff, right? Give me some more ammunition. Let me go into battle with more guns. And they do nothing. I mean, they just disappear in the offseason, don't they? I mean, they just go silent in free agency. Last year draft, they move up to get the future quarterback. This year, they're not real active. And I'm sure he's having all these behind-the-scenes conversations, and he probably feels like he's getting somewhere. And somebody's saying, okay, Aaron, we get you. Yes, we're going to change how we do things. And then they don't. And at some point, you're just like, forget you. I'm done. Like, I love my teammates and I love the franchise, but I'm done. I got to get the heck out of here. So I get that part. What I don't understand and where I'm not on Aaron's side is what message that sends to all the guys on his team. And I think that's what doesn't get talked about enough with the Aaron Rodgers thing is, so you're basically saying that your receivers are chopped liver, that your running back's not one of the best, that your offensive line, which is graded out according to PFF pretty darn well the last few years. I've never been as high on them as they grade out, but it's hard to argue with the grade, right? They grade out every year as one of the best offensive lines.
And they've paid for it too, by the way.
And they pay, yeah.
Right.
I mean, they do a lot of good stuff. And his messaging to his 53 dudes that have his back, that are his boys, right, is the messaging there is you guys aren't good enough, but I am. So take all the other stuff away. How its message is, I'm a Super Bowl quarterback. I've won a Super Bowl. I can win a bunch of Super Bowls. But you guys, the rest of you, aren't good enough. So I'm pissed that our organization isn't doing more. So I have guys that are Super Bowl quality to come in and take your jobs and help me get to the Super Bowl. That's how it's taken. Now, I'm not saying that's his intent, but think about that. When you're constantly upset about what your organization isn't doing to help you win another Super Bowl, and then you get all the talking heads who want to talk about quarterback. They don't want to talk about the left guard. They don't want to talk about the outside backer. They don't want to talk about the corner. They don't want to talk about the receiver. They want to talk about the quarterback. So they're immediately going to jump on Aaron Steinbeck. Oh, yeah, he should win 4 Super Bowls and he should have way better players. But the messaging to the core of how you win in football is becoming a tribe within your group and serving one another and getting the most from one another and sacrificing one another's. You guys aren't good enough. And you're not good enough, so I want to go to Oakland, or I want to go to Vegas, or I want to go to Denver, or I want to go San Francisco. I want to go somewhere else where their 52 guys are better than our 52 guys. And that's what bothers me. I'm on his side that Green Bay should be more active and aggressive in improving their roster, and they should not have done the quarterback last year. I'm 100% on Aaron's side last year with Jordan Love. But golly, man, when you throw these temper tantrums publicly and you do these things, you're insulting 52 guys in the locker room. And I would hope those 52 guys listen to this because that's how they should feel. They should feel less than because of what Aaron's doing through his agent or publicly.
All right, great answer, first of all. And you speak to it as a guy that I know cared. Like, I remember there was you were catching some shit about some player you criticized, and they're like, oh, Trent, that's weird. And then, like, every former player at ESPN was like, no, you guys don't know Trent. Like, this isn't about anything other than old school locker room. This is how you handle your business. So everybody that played had your back. And I thought it was like kind of a cool moment because there was all of a sudden like a momentum correction around a Dilfer take that you had that people were like, wait a minute, where's his head at with this whole deal? So because is it safe to say like Aaron's your guy? I don't know how close you guys still are. Are you not close at all? I mean,
Well, I
he's your
love
guy,
Aaron.
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
I've known him since he was 19 years old. I mean, I go up and work out with him when I was still playing. When he was at Cal, when he was young in Green Bay, helped him through some stuff. I would consider him a friend. I wouldn't consider myself in his tight network. But if he were to call me and counsel me, I would have said these things. Now, I'll say one more thing. So I'm pro Aaron, and then I gave my take on how it's taken the locker room. I'll say this might be the biggest dynamics going on. Some of this might not be Aaron's fault. There's cyber warfare going on, correct? Like, you got to understand now, for the last 2 months, all of you have been involved in cyber warfare. You're getting sources, your best buddies are using you, and I probably less you because you have a better pulse on your sources. But I told Pat McAfee this, and Mike Silver this, and Sam Farmer this, and all the guys I talked to, and Albert Breer, his pod. Like, you guys are kind of being used too for a cyber warfare play that's going on. And all the general managers and all the coaches leading into the draft, they care about one thing and one thing only: themselves, as they should. So they're using this media platform. They're using sources and their conduits to get their information out, to smear other teams, to create false narratives, to get bad things said about players that they really like, good things said about players they don't like, yada, yada, yada. I do think some of this is that. I don't think Aaron called his agent and said, screw them, they suck, I'm out. I think it was a slow burn, and then others jumping on this bandwagon to kind of create this cyber warfare narrative that's going on to make Aaron look bad, to possibly, if you're Denver and you're sitting there, you're like, this could work. We might get him so upset that he doesn't go back to Green Bay. And, we have a lot of capital that we can invest and get Aaron Rodgers to come on over here. I'm sure John Elway and the rest of that organization would be really happy to do that. So again, you have to take it all in stride. And I think the listener typically hears one hot take, one thing, one clickbait deal, and they run with it without understanding the 30,000-foot cyber warfare context that's been going on really since Tampa hoisted the trophy, because it started the next day. I mean, I was on call the next day, and I said, listen, awesome. We can kind of recap the Super Bowl and the season in 2 minutes, because I know what you're getting on to. You're getting on to quarterbacks. And you're getting onto the draft and free agency and Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson and Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and Trey Lance. I mean, that you have content all the way through draft. And then guess what's going to happen after the draft? Another issue is going to come up around a quarterback. And that's what we'll talk about from the draft until preseason starts. So I do think people have capitalized on that quarterback momentum and the clickbait that goes with it.
Yeah, you're totally right about that part of it. And I think I've been more criticized, or I should say it this way, I've been more critical of the Rodgers element of this, because it was so obvious what they were doing. And it's like, oh, so it's draft day and you're going to spread all the love around with some bits of information where just every day it's like whoever's a pretty plugged in national voice covering the NFL. It's like, okay, so Rodgers' team gave this guy this, but he gave Schefter something a little different than what he gave. And it's like, and then on draft day, so now you're just going to blitz the media cycle to try to think you're going to win, where if you're really paying attention, you're like, I don't know, man, you guys have to do it. And my whole point was, if you want it out so bad, then do this at the start of free agency. Like, now you've gone through the cycle of the transactions and everything you were doing. And maybe Green Bay already has their guy to replace him in Jordan Love because they spent the pick on him last year. But that stuff kind of turns me off. But you also hit on something that I think is really important, as we've seen the demand part of the position evolve, where we've seen it in the NBA, and I've made this connection plenty of times, others have as well, is that the quarterback's becoming the NBA star. And I think this is just the beginning of it. And so as an old school guy, go, hey, I can't be that publicly down. I can't basically be saying to the other 52, you're not good enough for me, which is exactly what you're doing when you say you want out. And the other part of this is, it's not like they're going 8-8. Although I would say defensively, what happens to that team in the playoffs and the Rodgers losses, I think it's, again, 37 points allowed in his playoff losses. I can imagine that not being great. But there's this old school football part of it where there's a disconnect generationally of, well, in football, the NBA, those guys are those guys. And I get those criticisms. But in the NFL, like, it's a locker room, it's a team, it's 11 guys, and you can't ever do that. And I'm like, no, it's just going to start happening. It's just going to start happening where we accept. I don't think that mentality will trump a generational thing where, younger people are asking, why don't I have more things? older people are like, why do you keep asking for the more things? And I'm not sure who's right.
It's a great way of saying it. And you know this about me. I'm idealistic, right? I'm an idealist. I think there's a certain way that you win. I build my program that way. I'll coach this way forever. I do think you're right that it's going to become more the star-driven, less holistic.
Whatever football stuff we have in our brain of
No
the
doubt.
way a football player is supposed to operate, I think we're going to have to start moving on from that.
Totally agree, except that here's where I'll put my flag in the ground. Every year, the team that wins the Super Bowl, when they get on the podium, they won't talk about talent. They won't say, we're more talented, we have more stars. They'll talk about chemistry, togetherness, work ethic, the bond that they had. They will talk about the things that most of the league is going to dismiss, but the team that wins it all will somehow find a way in the midst of this social media, Gen Z, millennial, whatever it is, thought process around sport. They somehow found a way to still do the holistic team building, togetherness, servant heart, I'm in it for you approach to the game. And that's why they'll win. Like it will not be the team that had the most star power. It will not be that way. And even when the Warriors did the first big three and all that stuff happened, they talked about that year, the first year, because I was in the Bay Area and I played golf with Steph, and he would talk about their bond. They would talk about their togetherness. Yes, they were more talented. Yes, in year 2, 3, they had some issues. But that year, they found that secret sauce of bringing a bunch of stars together and buying into something bigger than themselves. And that will be the team that wins the championship.